Okay, then I can see your charts now. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Good evening, guys. Good evening, and welcome to the day 3 of JavaScript Essential course. So that's really great that we are now on day 3 and we have learned quite a lot of things. We have learned the basics of JS, we have learned how to create variables, how to print something, and also some sort of conditional statements as well. So, good evening, everyone. Good evening, guys. Good evening, Ajay, Pratibha, Himanshu, Yash, Armugam, Ajay, Aradhana, Karan. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, guys. Good evening, Pooja. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the day 3. I hope you guys are doing good. Oh, good morning. Good morning, CTSO. Good morning, buddy. Good morning from India. Good morning. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. And today we are going to start with some new things. And guys, we are slowly reaching to the project that we are going to make. And now it has been decided. So, yesterday I gave you guys a poll, right, on what we're going to make. And the maximum votes were for the music player. So, at the end of this course, in the last 2 days, we are going to build a music player. And now I'm going to structure this course accordingly. See, first thing that we only have 7 days. It is a 7 day course, 7 day essential course. That basically means we cannot complete the whole JavaScript that there is. For that, we need a lot of time. But now that we know what is our ultimate aim at the end, we have to make a music player. Depending on that, we are going to convert the whole course and we'll learn things accordingly. But yeah, basic things will always be there. So we still have to learn functions because they are like those things will be needed. We'll talk about objects because those things again will be needed. We'll also talk about arrays. So we are completing all the basics almost, and basically we are getting ready to create that music player. And I've also got some designs in my mind, so we're also going to design a really good page for that. A really good page, a lot of music, and let's see how cool music player we can make. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Once again, welcome on day 3, and I hope you're submitting assignments. I hope you're marking your attendance. And now then, let's go. So yesterday, guys, if you remember, yesterday we started with something called as condition, and we got introduced to something called as if and else. So basically, we learned what if I want to perform something based on a condition, how to do that. So for that particular purpose, we learned if and else. And yesterday we also learned a lot of operators. So I hope everyone is cleared with all of that, right? So now then, today we're going to move ahead with conditional statements. We'll talk about some more conditional statements, and after that we'll move on to something called as loops. And if we get a little more time, we'll also move on to arrays after that. But for now, today's focus is on the next conditional statement, and after that, loops. Those things are very important. Okay, guys, so let's go. Let's move ahead, everyone. So, yesterday we ended at if and else. So, we learned, okay, how to execute something when the condition is correct and how to execute something when the condition is wrong. And for that purpose, we learned something called as if and else. But now there is a limitation to if and else. And the limitation is it only works for one condition. That basically means, okay, fine. If this condition is correct, I'll execute this block. If this condition is false, I'll execute this block. But what if I have multiple conditions? Okay, should I zoom my screen? Okay, just let me do it. Here we go. So basically, I'm saying, what if I have multiple conditions? Like for example, if this is the condition, I'll do this. If that is the condition, I'll do that. So there is a third condition. There is also a fourth condition. So in this case, there is only one condition. So if that is correct, do this. That is false, do that. But what if I have 5 conditions, 10 conditions? What should we use in that case? Okay. And for that purpose, guys, let me first comment this out. Let me just comment this out. And for that purpose, we have something called as multiple if, or we also call it if else if. We also call it something like this. Okay. So normally I call it multiple if, but yeah, I have seen a lot of places where they call it if else if. So you can call it anything. You can call it multiple if, you can call it if else if, you can call it else if, whatever you want. But the statement remains the same, that we're going to use this to write multiple conditions. So guys, everyone, all the new people, focus. Let's see how to write multiple conditions at once. And it's going to be very easy. And for that, actually, I'm going to take an example. I'm going to take a very normal example of grade and percentage. Right. So for example, if your grade is above 75, I'm going to print O grade. If the grade is above 60, I'm going to print A grade. That is what example I'm taking here. Okay, so let's go, guys, and let's do it. So let me just remove some spaces. Okay, So now let's say, guys, I have a variable. Okay, let's say I have a variable called as grade, and let's say I just give some default value for, like, let's say 78 in that. Okay, now then let's see how I'm going to write, and it's very simple. So first, write a normal if condition. So if grade is greater than equal to 75, that means if the grade is greater than equal to 75, I simply want to print, so let's say console.log, let's say O grade, something like that. I print. Simple. Now, till now we have only learned that we can write else after this, but now we have one more condition. If this condition doesn't satisfy, I don't want to go to else. I have one more condition, and for that, we're going to move ahead and we will add a else and then a if. So this is a else if keyword. It's not only else, because you cannot write any condition in else. Else is like the final thing. If any condition doesn't satisfy, else is that thing. So here the keyword is else if. Understand, wherever there is a condition, there will be a if. So else if, so else if and a new condition. So I can just do this. Grade is greater than equal to 60. And then we can move ahead and just print console.log A grade, something like that. Okay. And just like that, I can now add as many conditions as I want. Depends on me, depends on the program. So I can also add this. Else if grade is greater than equal to 40, in that case, please go ahead and print. Let's say we just add, okay, console.log something like B grade. And let's say B is the final option. So after this, I'm going to fail. Okay, so that's it. Else, let's simply say console.log failed, something like that. Now, if you see, now I cannot show you everything at once because I have zoomed the screen that much, but you can see my grade is 78. And now I'm checking if grade is greater than equal to 75, O grade. If it is greater than equal to 60, A grade. If it is greater than equal to 40, B grade. And if none of that condition satisfied, finally move ahead to failed. So that's how it works, guys. Now see, in a multiple if, only one block will work. So if this block works, if this condition is correct, this block will execute and everything else will be skipped. Everything else will be skipped. Understand that. All of them will not work. So if this condition satisfies, this block will work and everything else will be completely skipped. That's a benefit of else if. Okay, if this condition doesn't satisfy the first one, then it will move to the next condition, and if that satisfies, then everything else will again skip, and just like that the sequence goes on. And if none of the conditions satisfies, then it simply goes to else. Ajay, here we don't have elif. No, here we don't have elif. I think we have something like that in PLSQL, right? We don't have it here. Here we have else if, just like Java or C. We have else if. Elif also does the same thing, but I am not sure if it is in JavaScript. It's not in JavaScript. I have seen something like that in PLSQL, maybe. I think there it is ELS if. I can't remember now. I learned it in my college, so I can't remember that. But yeah, that's fine. Yeah, okay, fine. Jitendra is answering it. Elif in Python. Yeah. So I don't have a lot of experience in Python. So yep. So Elif might be in Python doing the exact same thing. Okay. That's great, guys. So let's see if it works. Now, you guys tell me the answer. What will be the answer for this? Everyone, come on. What will be the answer for this? Guys, what will be the answer for this? It should be simply, right? We can see it's 78. It should be definitely O grade. Let's confirm. Okay, let me also run this page. I forgot to run this page. So copy the file path. You can also use a live server. It's totally fine. And now let me take it here and paste. Yep, you guys are correct. It is O grade. Amazing. Right? We got the answer. Let me zoom this as well. Fine. Now let me do one little change. What if I put the 60 condition on top and the 75 condition on bottom? Now what? I didn't do any change. It's still the same. If grade is okay, let me also do this. Here I'm going to put A grade and here I'm going to put O grade. Fine, all set. Cool. If grade is greater than equal to 60, print A grade. If grade is greater than equal to 75, print O grade. Nothing has changed. My conditioning is still correct. Now what will I get, everyone? Now what will I get? Just asking. Okay, it's not, I'm not sure if it's going to really change. Everyone? Okay, so I can see a lot of people printing O grade, and a lot of people are changing their answer to A grade, and some people are saying both. See, first thing, Srushti, okay, not Iswar, both will never work. It's a multiple if. Only one condition satisfies. That's all. Okay, so guys, the answer is in this case it will print. Let me show you that. In this case, it will print A grade, not O. Now, that is a problem. Even if my conditioning is correct, I just changed the sequence and I got a problem. Are you getting my point, everyone? Even if I read and the conditions look fine to me, but it's a problem. Why? Because the execution sequence starts from start. And 78, now you tell me, don't read this condition. Is this condition not correct? My grade is 78, and here we are checking if grade is greater than equal to 70. Sorry, 60. It is correct. 78 is greater than equal to 60, and that's why we got A grade, and we never achieved, we never like came here in the first point. So that's the case, and that's the problem with this program. So if I follow a sequence, it works, but if I don't follow the sequence, it doesn't work. That means my program is logically incorrect. Okay, and that's what I have to correct now. And for that particular reason, guys, we have what we learned yesterday, right? Conditional or logical operators, and or. That's what we learned yesterday, right? How to write multiple conditions. Now here we're going to need multiple conditions in one line, like this. Now focus. Now here I'm going to go and put and. Also at the same time, the grade should be less than, equal to, or less than 75. So now this whole statement will become true only if grade is greater than equal to 60 and also less than 75. So now in this case, if I check 78, fine. Check if grade is greater than equal to 60. Yes, 78 is greater. And is it less than 75? No. So true and false completely become false. And now it will go to the next one. And now it is becoming correct. So now here also, I'll just go and grade is less than 100 or maybe equal to 100 because 100 can be maximum, right? And same in this case, I'll go here and I'll also put and. Now in this case, no matter what is the sequence, the program is logically correct. And in conditions, it should be always like this. When you write conditions, you should not depend on the sequence. You should depend on your conditions. If the conditions are correct, no matter what the sequence is, they should work. So you should always depend on the condition. And now in this case, it should be perfect. And now let's see. And here we go. Now we get O grade. So is it clear, guys? Everyone, are we clear with the logic? And now you also understood what can be the use of a logical operator like and or. In these case, whenever you want to specify a range, like from 60 to 75, from 40 to 60, in that case, you can use that logical operators like and or. Okay. So this was multiple if, guys. This was basically multiple if, and now you know how to use it. Very simple, very easy, very clean, nothing tough. Okay, I hope everyone understood. Guys, please answer me in the chat quickly so that we can move ahead to the next one. And the next one is very simple. We should not even consider it like a different conditional statement. It's very easy. It is called as nested if, but actually it's nothing but a code inside if. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Don't worry. But first, everyone answer me. Are we cleared with this, guys? Okay. That's really great. Let me comment this out now and we'll move ahead to the next concept, next type of conditional statement, that is basically what? Nested if. And guys, see, I'm not going to do any example for that because it's very simple to understand and we're not going to use our time on that. So I'll tell you. So see, what exactly is the meaning of nested first? So if there is something inside something and both are similar, they can be considered as nested. That means something is inside something. Like for example, something like this. If, and inside that if, I have one more if. Now in this case, this can be considered as nested if. So there is a if inside a if, and that's why this is what you call as nested if. Nesting basically means putting something similar inside something. That's what nesting means. And that's it. That's all. Now, actually, there is no concept here. Why? Think of it like this. When we learned if, what we said, if this condition is correct, we'll go inside and execute the code. That is correct. Now, that code can be anything. It can be an array, it can be a loop, it can be a function call, it can be another if who is stopping you. So basically, the concept of nested if, it's Not a great concept. It's simply like, okay, fine, there is a if inside if. That's all. If you want to perform multiple checks, you simply put a if inside if. But again, it totally depends on the needs. If you need another if inside your code, you will definitely use it. Is it clear, everyone? So now in this case, guys, are we understanding the point here? Okay, so if this condition is correct, we'll go inside. Again, there is a if. Fine, then check again. If this condition is correct, go inside, and whatever code is, we'll execute that. Is it clear, everyone? That's what I'm saying. It is not much of a concept. It's just, okay, fine. It is something unique. That's why this, fine, it has been given a different name. Okay, it's a separate conditional statement called as nested if. But it's simply a if inside if, just like any code inside if. That's all. And you can use it to check levels of condition. Like, okay, fine, if you want to check 3 to 4 conditions one by one, so you can use this logic. So first check one condition, then inside check another condition, then inside check another condition. So even whenever you want to check conditions after condition, so if something is true, then I'll check the next one. If something is true, then I'll check the next one. Like, for example, let's say you have a form. I'm just giving an example. Let's say you're creating a form like username, name, email, and password. So first you want to check if the name is there, if the name is filled. So you'll check if name is not empty. Fine, go inside. Now check if password is not empty. Fine, go inside. Now check if email is not empty. That means you want to check the next one based on if the first one is fine. In that case, we go. So whenever you want to do a multiple level check, you go for a nested if. And again, it, guys, totally depends on needs. Totally depends on need. Like, for example, let me give you an example. For example, see, let me create a var num equals 23 and var num2 equals 45, something like that. Okay. Now, I want to check if num2, like, let me give it num2 and num1 like this. Okay. So I want to check if num2 is less than 100 only after checking if num1 is less than 50. Get my point here? I want to check num2 is less than 100 only when I'm confirmed if num1 is less than 50. Then I'll do something like this. Because if I keep this if outside, I'm checking both. I'm checking both. Check if num1 is less than 50 and also check if num2 is less than 100. But if I keep that if inside, that means first, to come to this point, I have to cross this point. That means first I'll check if num1 is less than 50. Then only I can check if num2 is less than 100. So basically, whenever I want to perform a multiple level check like this, okay, first check this before checking this. In that case, I can go for a nested if. Is that clear, everyone? That's the basic logic. That's the whole logic of nested if. And again, as I said, it totally depends on the needs. It totally depends on the needs. Are we cleared, everyone? So that's what nested if is. I hope we are cleared, guys. Right? Nothing tough to understand. Just like a normal if statement, but yes, if inside if. That's all. Okay, but you got the point, right? Only when you want to perform something based on some other check. So, okay, fine. I want to do this check, but first check this. If this is working, then only I'll check this. So yeah, multiple if. If this works, then check if this works. Then check if something else works. Then check if something else works. So if, inside if, inside if, inside if, nesting of ifs. That's all. Okay, that's sorted. So that was the concept of conditional statement, guys. That's how conditional statement works. Now there is one more, nested if, both needed to complete with else. No. It again depends, right? If you want to write else for any of the ifs. That's a good question, Raj, that you asked. Let me tell you. So basically it depends. Like, they are just ifs. See, first of all, they are not connected to each other. That's what I want you guys to understand. That's why I'm saying don't think of it as a big concept. They consider this if as just a code inside the first if you connect both of them, if you think of like they both are connected, then you'll get confused. They all can have their own else's. Why not? They can have their own else's. This can have its own else, this can have its own else. Why not? They are just ifs. They can have their own else's. This if it actually can become a multiple if, like this. Else if some other condition. Why not? Just code. That's all. So if it is correct, go inside. If it is incorrect, go to the else. Now if it is correct, go inside. Now again, if this is correct, go inside, otherwise else. Just normal code. think of it like normal code. Don't connect these things. Okay, they are not in nested if. They are not connected with anything. They are just like, think of them like normal code inside a if. Now once you reach there, okay, fine, it's also if, so now it will work. Is it clear, Raj? I hope it is cleared. So I'm just telling you guys to take this normally. That's all. That's my ultimate aim. Take this thing normally. Okay, don't connect. Don't make it a big concept. Okay, I have to go for a nested if here. It depends on the needs if you're going to write a nested if or not. Okay, all set. So guys, that was all about conditional statement. And there is one last conditional statement that I'll tell you, but I want you guys to research and talk about it yesterday. Like tomorrow, I'll ask you about that. So there is one last concept of conditional statement left, that is switch case. And I want you guys to tell me about it tomorrow. Not today, I'll ask you about it tomorrow. So for all the new people who have understood this, you read about switch case and tell me about that tomorrow. Why I'm not doing it? Because we don't have a lot of days and we still have to reach to our project, right? So that is one thing, switch case. I want you guys to research and tell me about that tomorrow. Is that clear, everyone? I hope that's fine. So how to know my assignment has no code error? How to know my assignment has no code error? If it is working, mostly, that's the first step, right, Prakhar? If it is working, then there's no code error. Simple. But if you want to see in JavaScript, if you want to see if there is an error or not, you can always go to the console. If there is a code error, if there is some compilation mistake in your code, you will always see it on the console. It will always be available on the console that in on this line you're making some mistake or something like that. Okay, cool. Then guys, let's move ahead. So I want you guys to learn switch statement and tell me about it tomorrow. But these are all the conditional statements. So normal if else, multiple if, and nested if. And now then, let's move ahead. And for the next one, I'm going to create a new page because in this page we have already coded a lot. So let's create a new page for the next one. And in the next one, we're going to learn how to write JS externally. Are you using Visual Studio for writing code? Yes, I'm using Visual Studio Code, VS Code, the name of the software. Okay. So everyone, let's see how to write JS externally. Okay, guys. So till now, see, we were writing our JS inside the HTML page by using a script tag. That is what we learned yesterday and day before yesterday. So now let's see how to write JS externally, but still we will need a HTML file, as this is a client-side JS, as this is a browser-based JS. Okay, so let's go. Let's create a new file called as uh, index2.js, not JS, .html. Okay, let's prepare the basic HTML here like this. And let me remove all the meta tags. We don't need them right now. Right now, they are not required. Let me write loops, comma, arrays, comma, objects. Now, these are the topic for the next two lectures, today and tomorrow. We're going to cover all these things, loops, arrays, and objects. Okay, everyone? So now, as I said, I am not going to write my JS inside HTML. Okay, let's say, see, I'll first of all tell you the problem. Like, what if your HTML code is too big? Right, around 1,000 lines, and now you're also going to write JS code in that. That will make your code messier and less manageable. It will not cause any problem, but yeah, the file size will be big. If your HTML code is big and your JS code is also big, you have to go up and down, because HTML code is on the top and script tag is at the bottom. So to write JS or to check HTML, you always have to go up and down. That's too much messy, right? So that for that reason, now in this particular file, we are going to create JS externally. That means there will be a separate page dedicated for JS. Just like we create external CSS, a separate page dedicated to CSS. Just like that, we're also going to create a separate page dedicated to JS. So let's do that, guys. And it's very simple. So first of all, create a file, like again, same index2.js. Here we go. Now, how will this JS file know that I have to work with this HTML page? That's very important, right? On the browser, a JS file needs a HTML file. That's what we learned on the first day. A JS file needs a HTML file to work. So for that, you have to link both of them. But it's not like CSS. In CSS, you use a link tag to link a CSS file. Here, we don't use a link tag. No, we don't use link tag. We again use the same script tag. And here, we just go and put src attribute, and inside that, we simply put the path of the file. index.js. That's it. An external JS file be used for different HTML files? Why not? Yes, yes, Pratibha. Yes, it can be used. Yes, you can use a single JS file for multiple HTML files. Yes, depending on the need. So do we have any inline JS like CSS? Yes, you can also write JS inline, but only in events. Only in events mostly. You can write inline JS. Normally we don't write inline JS. That's not suggested. But yeah, you can kind of achieve that in the event formation. Yes, Prakhar. So I'm just giving you a hint, but yeah, you should never do that. That's not suggested. Why not use href? Because that's how we don't like. That's not how we connect JS files. We don't use link tag. Understand the point, Yash? We don't use link tag to connect JS. Link tag is for different resources like CSS, icons, different things. Script tag is used to connect JS. Is that clear? So that's how you connect it, guys. Script, src, and the file path of the JS. Now to confirm if they are linked, let's do this. Run this page first, this HTML file. Don't run the JS file, guys. You have to run the HTML file only. So run this file, the new HTML file, and now let's go in the JS file and just put a dummy console.log. And if it prints, that means files are linked. So I am working, something like that. Save it. Here we go. We are getting I'm working. That means both the files are perfectly linked. I always do this whenever I link so that I can be confirmed that linking will never be an issue. Sometimes what happens is we write a lot of code and then we check and it's not working. And then we find out that we have not linked it with the script tag or there's some problem. That's why this is my first thing that I always do whenever I link any file. So that I can confirm that linking will never be an issue. Okay, if any error comes, linking is not one of that. Okay. So very simple, script, src, and the file path of your JS. Are we cleared, everyone, how to link a JS file? Everyone, please tell me, guys. All set? Now here, you can write JS normally. The way you write, normally you can write it. Link should be given in script tag. Yes, script, and inside src, you have to give the link of your file, not link exactly the path of your file. Or a link also if it is online. Why not? Yes. Okay. Pooja, you see, guys, one more thing. See, one more thing. If I ask you to have, do you understand or something like that? Don't say no or don't say repeat. Tell me the exact point where you're confused. Like by that, I'll at least understand where you're confused and I can give answer accordingly. Now, see, Pooj, and also see, guys, sometimes you're watching late or someone joins late. So I don't understand what exactly is the chat. So I'm just giving you all the hints that whenever you don't understand anything, ask me that thing. Mention that thing, what you're not understanding. Otherwise, I won't understand if someone is asking it on the live or someone is asking a 2 minutes before question. Are you getting the point? So always ask related to what you want to understand so that I can easily understand what you're actually asking so that I can help you better. Okay. Why we don't put src script in the head tag? Yes, that's a very good question. Actually, I explained this, right? See, we write JavaScript always in the bottom. Why? Because we want first our DOM elements to load and then the JS to load. Because we are going to use JavaScript to manipulate the DOM. So we don't want JS to load first and then the DOM to load. We first want our HTML elements to load so that JavaScript can work efficiently. SK. That's why we always write JavaScript below HTML elements or not above. Is that clear, SK? Prakhar is asking what is dot slash? Is it's simply what do you say, a file management what do you say, command. Like see, I don't know if you guys like know command prompt. You know that dot dot cd dot slash means current folder. So I mentioned dot slash, that means I'm trying to access a file from the current folder only. Dot slash means I'm going back. Slash means I'm going forward. Dot slash means current folder. That's basically the meaning. In this case, I don't need it, but I just follow that logic. In this case, we don't need it. Why? Because simply it's in the same folder. If things are in the same folder, you don't need to write that. I just write it because I just follow some standards. That's all. It's simple. So if you guys, and it is very important, guys. After completing all these sessions, just learn how to navigate through your PC using command prompt. Learn basic commands, how to open directories, how to move in directories, how to create a file using command prompt. That will be very helpful once you become a developer and you start working on the servers directly. it will be very, very helpful. Okay, so if you don't know, learn how to use the command prompt in the Windows, like how to travel through directories, how to open a file, how to close a file, how to delete, right, how to create a file. Just learn these basic things, it will help you a lot. Okay, then now let's go and let's talk about the next topic, guys. This is very important. That is something called as loops. Okay, so now, first of all, don't think that it is tough. I know a lot of people find loop stuff. I was one of them when I was learning in my college. Okay, En is English, Pooja. En is basically English. That's all, nothing else. Okay, so now, guys, first of all, let me tell you what is a loop. Like when you hear of loop, you simply understand what is that thing. It's simply like something that is going on and on, or something that is going in circle. That's what we think, right, when we hear the word loop. Okay, so let me explain you what exactly is loop in programming. Okay, so in programming, loop is something that executes itself again and again. Understand, guys, in programming, loop is something that executes itself again and again. Executes itself, I'm saying. Okay, so there is some keyword or block that executes itself again and again. Now, what will I have, like, why will I have a use of that thing that executes itself again and again? So I'll tell you. So let's say sometimes you have some code and you want to execute it 100 times, 2000 times, 5000 times. You want to execute it a lot of times. Then are you going to write that code that much times? For example, let me give you an example. Let's say I write console.log hello. Okay, now you'll never need this, but let's say it is a very important code. It is very important, some space code like that. And I want to execute this line of code 2000 times. What are the options? Either I write this same line 2000 times, but that is very messy. It will simply increase my lines of code. It will make my file big and it will waste my time, right? So that's where something called as loop comes. Loop is something that executes itself again and again. So whenever I feel I have some code that I want to execute multiple times, I can give that code to the loop. Okay, fine, loop, take this and execute this for me. And loop will by default execute it again and again. And we can also stop a loop on a desired time. Like, see, by default, every loop will never stop. We have to also understand how to stop a loop. Is that clear? So that's what we're going to learn now. So guys, have we understood the definition of loop? Loop in programming is something that executes itself again and again. And if I want something to execute again and again, I can put that code inside of a loop and it will start executing again and again. Is that cleared? But yes, if I just let it execute again and again, it will go infinite times. So I also have to understand how to stop a loop. And that's what we will learn. Don't worry. Is that cleared? Yes. So loop is repeating itself again and again. That's why whatever you put inside it, it also executes again and again. So that's why we call it loop is used to execute something continuously, repeatedly. That's what the definition says, right? It's because it's a default behavior, natural behavior of a loop to execute itself again and again. Understand the definition. Okay. So now then, let's see how does a loop work. So first of all, guys, one really important thing to understand, that loop also depends on something called as a condition. Now, we very well know what is a condition, right? We are learning it from yesterday. A condition is nothing but comparison. We learned it, right? Guys, see how I'm going to the loops. So loop also depends on a condition. And we very well know what exactly is a condition. It's nothing but comparison of data. That means, okay, fine. It is comparison of data. We know this. We have learned this yesterday. I'm just repeating it, revising it. And if I want to perform a comparison of data, I need data. And data is stored in where? Variables. So I'm going to need all these things. I'm going to need all these things. I'm going to need a condition. Okay, so let's see how a loop is written. And for that, let me first write a if so that I can compare and show how does actually a loop work. Okay, so let's say I write a if code. So if condition, and then below that, my block that will be executed if the condition is correct. So now, how does a if work? If this condition is correct, it goes inside, execute this code, and goes outside. Perfect. We know this. If this condition is incorrect, it will simply skip this block and move ahead. Right? That's what we know. Just like that, loop also works. Not exactly similar, but yeah, almost similar. So let me say we create a loop. For now, I'm not telling you the keyword, but I'm just writing loop. So loop also has a condition, just like if. Loop also has a condition. And again, it also has a block. Now, exactly like if, it will also start. When the execution control comes here, loop, fine. Check if the condition is correct. Now, first of all, if the condition is wrong, it will simply skip the block and move ahead. Just like if the condition is wrong, I'll simply skip the block and move ahead. But if the condition is correct, I'll go inside and execute the code. But now here comes the difference. It is not a if statement. In if statement, after the block, it simply goes outside. In this, after executing the block, it again goes back up. That's what loop is. After executing the block, it again goes back up and again checks the condition. And again, if it is correct, I'll come inside, execute the code, and I'll again go back up. It will never end. It will always go back up. It will only end if it goes back up and finds out the condition is false, and then it will end. That means loop never ends after the execution of the block. That's why I just tweak the definition and say loop is something that executes itself. I'm not telling the loop to go back up. That's a default behavior. That's why I say loop is something that executes itself again and again. But it's us who can mention how the condition should work, because only when loop finds out that the condition is false, it exits, it stops. Is that clear, everyone? Guys, is the logic cleared? Please tell me. Everyone, is the logic cleared? Now we can move ahead. I just wanted you guys to understand that how exactly loop works, because there are a lot of definitions. Loop is used to repeat, loop does this, but you should know exactly how loop behaves. Okay, correct way of understanding loop. Okay, so now then let's move ahead. Let's go. Let's remove all this and let's see how to write a loop in JS. Now, not only in JS, mostly in almost all the programming languages, by default, there are three basic keywords that are given to you to write loops. Okay, so they go like this. The first keyword that you have is something called as while. The second keyword that you have is something called as do while. And the third keyword that you have is something called as for. These are the three basic keywords that are given to you by which you can create loops. And these are almost in all the programming languages, not in only Java, not in only JavaScript, guys. In Java also, C, C++, almost everywhere these three keywords are there. Now you can ask, sir, like if it's simply going to create a loop, why do we have three keywords? Why not only one? So you'll understand there are some little differences between all of them, and depending on the need, you use either of them. There are some little differences, and we'll talk about all of them. Okay, so let's go and let's start with the first one, that is while. Okay, so let's go. Again, let's write while. The syntax is while. In bracket, you'll have your condition, and after that, the code. Now, you want to write condition. That means you need a variable to compare. So let me create that. Let's say var num equals 1, something like that. And now let's say I put my condition as num is less than 5. And now let me put my code as console.log. In this case, let me just print hello. Now see what will happen. Fine. Initially, num is equal to 1. Perfect. Amazing. Now check. 1 is less than 5. Yes, correct. Come inside, execute the code. Hello is printed. Again, go back up. Check if num is less than 5. Yes. It is still 1. 1 is less than 5. Come inside, execute the code. Again, go back up. Check if num is still 1. That means here, num is never changing. That means if I run this loop will go on forever, forever, forever. And at some point of time, it will crash my browser, because it will use that much memory. That means this loop is actually an infinite loop, because here the condition is never getting wrong. So to make the condition wrong, what do we have to do, guys? We know that num is initially 1. Okay, and till the time num is less than 5, this condition is going to be correct. Okay, so only if num becomes 5 or greater than 5, then the condition will go wrong. For example, I can do this. I can say, fine, num equals 5. Okay, first of all, don't consider that num plus plus necessary. That's not the only way. That mindset I want to change. Num plus plus is not the necessary thing. It depends how many times I want to run the loop. So in this case, guys, see, this is also fine, right? Correct. Num equals 1. Fine. 1 is less than 5. Good. Console.log hello, and num equals 5. Next time, it will check 5 less than 5? No. Loop ended. That means this loop is only working one time. Let's see. Here we go. Only one hello. So basically, this is the start, and we know how to end it. Only when num becomes 5 or greater than 5, it will end. That means once my reach once my num reaches 5, it will end. So I can reach there directly or step by step. It depends on me. So if I reach there step by step, that many times my loop will run. Like I can also reach there like this. Num equals to num plus 2. Why not? I can also reach there like this. So now what will happen? Num equals 1. Fine. 1 is less than 5. Fine. Hello. Now num equals num plus 2. That means num equals 1 plus 2. It becomes 3. Now check. 3 is less than 5. Yes. Hello. Now 3 plus 2. 5. 5 less than 5? No. That means now this loop is running 2 times. Here we go. Hello. 2 times. So what I'm trying to say is plus plus is not necessary. Don't feel that is mandatory. What happens is then when you go in interviews or something like that, you just put that plus plus without thinking if that will work or not. I don't want that. So understanding the point, it's not necessary. I just have to reach that end. Doesn't matter how I reach. I should know how to divide it in steps. That's all. I can also do this. Num equals to num plus 1. Now it will increment by 1. So now 4 times. And here, if you simply want to increment anything by 1, we have a better alternative. Like instead of writing this big code, that is num plus plus. So only if you want to increment by 1, then you go for plus plus. Otherwise, you don't go for plus plus, right? Everyone, same output. Is it cleared? So plus plus is not mandatory. It's a requirement. Depending on the need, you use it. Only if you want to increment by 1. Is that clear? And yeah, num plus equal to 1. That's also fine. Yesterday we learned all that, right? Plus equal to all that. So that's how it works. And if I want, I can print anything. Not only hello, I can directly print my num here. So whatever changes num is going through, I can print that. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because initially num is 1, then it becomes 2, then it becomes 3, then it becomes 4. And as soon as it becomes 5, the condition goes wrong. So that's why I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4. I can also tell, okay, fine. Don't work only for less than 5. You work for less than equal to 5. That means now it will not go for less than 5. It will go till equal to 5. That means now we'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can change it now. I can say, oh, fine, go till 10. But I can also say, start from 5 and go till 10. I can also do this. So the main aim is nothing is fixed. It depends on me. It depends on the requirement, how I'm going to code it. Okay. So that's it, guys. That's how the while loop works. I hope every one of you is cleared. I hope from now, you'll never forget what exactly is a loop and how it works. Okay. What about num plus equal to 1? That is also fine. CTSO, that's fine, buddy. It's exactly similar to num equal to num plus 1, right? Yes, why not? You can do that. Yes, definitely. It is exactly similar to num equals to num plus 1, right? Yep, why not? Here we go. Same thing. Okay. So guys, that's how loop work. And yeah, let me just move it to 1 equal to 10 because that looks simple, right? 1 to 10. Also reverse with them. Yes, why not? You can guys see, you can also start from 10 and go till 1. But now you have to reverse the condition as well, right? Because you're starting from greater. So now you have to check go till num greater than equal to 1. So now you're going to go reverse. And you're going 10. You're starting from 10, going to 1. So you have to perform minus minus now. Here we go. Very easy, right? That's really great. Okay, so now 10 to 1. So it's also easier to go in reverse. No matter. Very easy. Don't bother about it. Okay, so that's how while loop work, guys. And now let's move ahead to something called as do while loop. Okay, so let me comment this out and let's move to the next loop, that is do while, and let's see how does it work. So let's see how to start. So first of all, again, here we're going to need a condition. So for that, we need a variable. So var, again, let's say num equals 1, doesn't matter. This is just an example. Now, how to write a do while loop? Very simple. First here, you write a do. Do means perform this task. And then the bracket, the block of code. And then here at the end, you write your condition. Like for example, let's say num is less than equal to 10. It means, see, in while loop, you check the condition first, then execute the code. Here you'd say do, that means execute the code and then check the condition. So you're going reverse. So let me do that here as well. Console.log one, sorry, not one. Let me do num and let's say num plus plus. So now let's see how this is working. Very simple. Fine. Num is one. Cool. Understandable. Do. That means don't think, directly execute. Fine. Console.log num. One prints and then one plus plus. It becomes two. And now we go here. Check if two is less than 10. Yes. Go up, again do. Again increment, again check. If it is correct, go up, again do. So that's what is happening here. That means the difference between while and do while is, in while it first checks the condition, then executes the code. In do while, it first executes the code and then check the condition. And because of that, there is a little difference. Now see, in this case, the output will still be same, 1 to 10. 1 to 10. Okay. But the change occurs, let's say I make it 12. Now I know that definitely the condition is wrong for the first time. I know that. But because in here, the condition is not checked first, the execution happens first. That's why this loop will execute at least once. That's why we get this 12. I know by looking at it that the condition is wrong for the first time only, but still the execution happens at least once. So that's the difference between while and do while. Is that clear, everyone? So is that semicolon compulsory after while in this loop? In JavaScript, first of all, Revant, semicolon is not compulsory at all. Even if I remove that semicolon, it will work. Everywhere, if I do remove semicolon, it will work. In JS, semicolon is not mandatory. But yes, if you go for C, C++ everywhere, there you have to put that semicolon after that while. Is that clear, Revant? There you have to put that semicolon after the while. In JavaScript, semicolon is not necessary anywhere. Remove from everywhere. That's totally fine. Okay, guys, so I hope it is cleared. And that's why while is also considered as entry control loop and do while is also considered at exit control loop, because while checks it at the entry, do while checks it at the exit. So where can we use do while? Is there an example? Okay, good question. I'll give you an example. Do you know this, like this games where you go ahead, play the game first, and then it asks you, do you want to continue? Then you have an option, yes or no. If you say yes, it will again play the game. No, it will exit. Like, you guys have played the games, right? You go on a game like Honeyball or Pac-Man or something like that. You play the game, it asks you, do you want to continue? That means first it lets you play the game, then at the end it asks you, do you want to play the game? If you say yes, the condition goes true. If you say no, the condition goes false. If the condition is true, it again lets you play the game. So that game logic is inside the loop. You play, it asks the question, condition checks, true, again play, false, go out. So that's basically example. So every time you play the game, it at the end it asks you, do you want to play the game? Do you want to play the game? Every time at the end it is checking the condition. So that's one example. There are various examples, but that is one of them. Simple example. Okay, so guys, that was do while loop. Okay, now then, let's move ahead and let's talk about the last loop for today. And don't worry, a lot of people were yesterday asking, right, difference between let and var, let and var. Now today is the correct time. I'll teach you what is the difference between let and var. But for that, we also need to understand functions. But don't worry, I'll at least give you the basic hint of the difference between let and var. Okay, but first of all, guys, let's move ahead for. That's very important, right? So now, guys, see, for can be considered exactly like while, or can be considered exactly like while. It is also an entry control loop. It checks the condition first, executes the code, then increments, then again checks the condition, executes the code, increments, again check the condition. It works exactly like while, but it is one of the most used and people's favorite loop. Why? You'll understand that. See, now if you have read both the loops, you might understand what are the most important factors in loop. The most important factors in a loop are condition, because based on that the loop ends. You have initialization, based on that the loop starts. You have increment, decrement, that is what decides how many times the loop will run, right? So you need the start, you need the end, you need increment or decrement, because that is what decides how many times the loop will run. So these are the three most important factors. So what for loop does is, for loop tells you that I will let you write all the three important factors like initialization, checking of condition, and increment decrement at one place, so that you don't have to bother If you want to check it, you don't have to scroll it up and down if the code gets bigger. All the important factors are at one place. You can see them at once. And whenever you want to change it or work it, it's directly there. Is it clear? So that's why for loop becomes favorite. Easily everything is available here. If you want to change, check, manipulate, there's only one place. Because see, in while loop, if the code grows, you have to go below to check the increment decrement. You have to go up, right? So syntactically, it's good. Syntactically, for is quite cool, quite better. Is that clear, everyone? Okay, so for loop is syntactically better. That's, I think that's the main difference between for and while. Otherwise, they work exactly same. Okay, so let me see. I do console.log, let's say num directly. So it should also print num 1 to 10. So let's see. Ah, some issue. Okay, I created I here. So sorry. Let me print I. I didn't use num, right? I created I. So I 1 to 10. Simple. Is it clear, everyone? Guys, are we cleared? Please tell me. All set? It is also entry control loop. That means if initially my condition is wrong, now see, I make I equals to 12. That means I know that the condition is wrong initially, but now see in this case, it doesn't work because it's also an entry control loop, just like while. Okay. So that's it, guys. That was basically for loop. Is that clear, everyone? That was basically for loop. Okay, now as the last thing for today, I'll explain you the difference between let and var. Okay, and let is basically a newly introduced thing. It was introduced in ES6. That means 2000 version, 2015 version of JavaScript. ES6 was introduced in 2015. That's when they introduced let. And what it does, what are the benefits of using let over var, I'll tell you now. So see, the prominent difference between var, which is from the start of JS, and let, which was introduced in ES6 in 2015, the prominent difference is their scopes. Okay, see guys, var is something what we call as function scoped, and let is something called as blocked scope. Okay, block scope. So sorry, block scoped. This is the basic difference between let and var. Now I have to explain you what exactly is function scoped and block. Don't worry, big data visualization. There's nothing called as for each loop, but yeah, something like that is there. There are different loops here. There is map. There is also called it. There is a loop called as for each. I'm sorry. There is also a loop called as for each. So we have for each. We have map. We have different kind of loops here, and we'll learn that. Don't worry, big data visualization. Okay, just like Java and everything, we also have that loops here. But these were the fundamental loops, right? These were the important fundamentals loop. If you understand this, then only you will easily understand how for each is working, how map is working. Okay, yes, I'll also tell you counts, don't worry. Okay, guys. So see, first let's try to understand. So function scope means if there is a function, okay, like for example, let me give you an example, guys. Focus, everyone. So let's say there is a function. I want to show you that, so I'm creating a function. Tomorrow we'll talk about a function. Okay. So, okay, let's not do this. That's where the problem is. Now I have given you the definition. I have to tell you. Okay, let me create a function called as ABC. Okay. So basically, if I create a variable, right? For example, let's say I have a if here. Okay, I have a if, something like that. Now, guys, see, this is what you consider as a block. This curly brace is what you consider as a block. Okay. So if I create a if here, okay, just understand the example. I'll also give you one more example. So now here, if I go and create a variable using var, like var a equals to 2, understand that this a will be still accessible everywhere inside a function. That means if I use var to create a variable, and even if I create it inside a block, it will still be available throughout the whole function. That means I can still use this a outside. I can still use this a anywhere inside the function. That's what function scoped means. So inside a function, if you create a variable using var, no matter where, no matter in which block, it will be accessible everywhere inside the function. And see guys, when you don't create functions, JS file itself is a big function. Think of it like that. JS file itself is a big function. So if I create a variable using var, it is available everywhere. And basically, for example, let me give you an example now. See this for loop, everyone? Now see, this is the loop of the block. Sorry, this is the block of the for loop, right? This is the block of the for loop. And I have created this I variable only for this block. Okay, but I have created using var. And when you create something using var, it is available everywhere inside the function. And that's why, see, if I go ahead and just do console.log I outside, even if I created this variable for the loop only, you'll see that I can still access it outside. See, 11. Let me also print, like, let's say, comma outside, so that I can show you the differentiation. See that? I can still access this variable I outside the for loop. That's the problem with var. Okay, so if you don't create a function, think of the JS file itself as a function. Now I created this I variable inside the loop, but it is still accessible outside the loop. Is that clear? No, it's not public CTSO. It's like the scope, like it's global. It's always global, no matter where you create it. Now, see, when you go in other programming languages like Java, if you create a variable inside a function, that variable cannot be accessed outside the function. If you create a variable inside a block of if, that variable cannot be accessed outside that block. That means everywhere variables are block scoped. If you create a variable inside a curly braces, that variable will be only accessible inside that curly braces. Right? That's what the logic is. But in JavaScript, if you create anything with var, no matter where you create it, inside any block, it will always be accessible everywhere inside the function. Either inside the function, or if you're creating outside the function, throughout the whole page, it will be available. Is it clear? And that's why they introduced something called as let. And let solves this issue. Whatever variables you create with let, they are always block scoped. So now you have to think while creating, do I want it everywhere? So create it depending on that, you have to create it either outside the block or inside the block. So now see, if I do this, I get an error after 10. Uncaught reference error, I is not defined. That means I'm unable to find I outside because I created I only for the loop. It should not be accessible outside. Is that cleared, everyone? Guys, are we cleared? Please tell me. So let is block scoped. For whatever block you created, that's where it is accessible. In the same case, see guys, if I write a if condition, okay, and inside this if condition also, if I create a variable using var, this a variable will be still accessible outside. I can also use it outside. That will be fine. But that should not be the case because every other language doesn't allow this. Okay, that's why we have started using let. If you really want to create a variable for everything, create it outside then. Create it outside using let. But now things will be block scoped. So that's why we have let, because that was the problem with var. Var was always function scoped. Now see, I didn't create a function here properly because I have not taught you functions yet. So if I create a function, that will be unfair. You will be confused. So tomorrow we're going to learn functions. Okay, so I'll teach you functions first, and then I'll also show you what is function scoped. But for now, have you understood? Let is block scoped. For whatever block, that means for wherever you create inside curly braces, it will be only accessible inside that curly brace scope, not outside. But when you create it using var, no matter where you create it, always available everywhere. That's a problem. Okay, that's why we have something called as let. Are we cleared, everyone? Guys, everyone, please tell me, are we cleared? All set, all cleared? Guys, please tell me, everyone. Okay, and one more thing, ES6 also introduced something called as const. ES6 also introduced something called as const, something like this. So basically, if I create a constant here like this, let's say name, and if I pass Saurabh in that, basically whenever you create a variable using const keyword, now it's not a variable, it's a constant. It is called as a constant. It is also doing the same thing, storing data, but now you can never change the value of this name. That's what a constant means. You cannot change the value of this name variable. Now, if you try to change it, it will give you an error. That's what const means. See, now let me comment this out. Let me print this console.log name. See, I get Saurabh. Now, if I try to change that, name equals to, let's say, YouTube, something like that. See, and got type error, assignment to constant variable. That means I cannot do that. Is that clear, everyone? Guys? So that's the basic understanding. Don't worry about this hyphen coming on top of it. Don't worry about that right now. Don't worry about this strike coming on that. Don't worry. Okay? It's still a variable. So that is what a const means. You cannot change the value. So whenever you want to create a variable, but you don't want anyone or any program to change its value. You want it to remain fixed, like a value of pi, like a value of something, right? So you can make it a const instead of using let. Yes, Ajay Chaurisia, const means it remains constant. Yes, you cannot change it no matter what. No, 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 Ashwin. Const and static are different. I know there is a lot of confusion in this. Const and static are different. No, static doesn't mean constant. I know that people, whenever we feel there is something called, there is a value that I want to create constant, I also make it static. But that doesn't mean static and constant are same. No, constant is simply some a value that never changes. You make it static so that it is available throughout all the objects. So in object oriented programming, we make something static if I want to share that data with all the objects. Okay, I don't want it to be created for each and every object. That's when I make it static. And I generally make constant things static because I don't want every object to create a constant data again and again. It will be basically waste of memory. That's why you make it static, so that it is only created once. Static things are only created once. So whenever you feel there is something that you don't want, like that you don't want it to be created again and again, you make it static. So yes, exactly. You don't want a value of pi to be created again and again, right? So we make it static so that it is only created once, but it can be still used by every other object. So that is what static is. So static and constant are different. We make something static because I want it to be created only once for the class, not for the objects. And normally I make constant things static, but constant and static are two different things. Okay, so today's assignment, yes, I'll give you today's assignment. So today's assignment is, guys, I want you guys, okay, let me just write it here. So simply, yes, static is created once. Kuldeep, whenever you create a static variable or static data, it is only created once for the class. See, normally what happens, if you create a variable inside a class, if you create 10 objects for that class, that particular variable is created 10 times for every object. If you have ever learned object oriented programming, guys, you'll know this, right? If you create a variable inside class and if you create 10 objects for that class, for that particular variable, like every object will create a separate copy of that variable for everyone, right? So basically, let's say I have a variable called as pi and the value is 3.14 and I'm sure that it's never going to change, so I make it constant, right? And now let's say I create 10 objects. Now all the 10 objects will create a separate copy of pi for themselves. That means I'm using 10 blocks of memory for the same value, 3.14, again and again. So that's why I make it static. So that, no, fine, now you're not made for objects, you're made for the class. Objects can use you, but you're not made for objects. You're only created once for the class. So I'm saving memory. So by making anything static, we save memory. That's what we do. This is for all the guys who are from object oriented programming, guys. And for everyone else, don't worry. Even if you don't understand this right now, it's totally fine. Okay. Okay, guys. So today's assignment is I want you guys to create a loop. So by using a loop, I want you guys to create a program which prints a table of 5. That's first program. Okay. So program to print table of 5. This is my first question. The second question is, okay, just create 5 variables holding subjects of, like, holding marks of 5 subjects. Okay. So 5 variables, let's say holding marks of 5 subjects, first thing. Okay. And then calculate the percentage and depending on that percentage, give grades. I know it's very easy, but this is what I want you to do, because tomorrow we'll talk about functions, arrays, and that's when the programs will become much more bigger and good. But for now, this is fine. So because of these programs, you'll at least practice conditions and loops once, and that's what I want. So very simple programs. print Write a program to print a table of 5, and simply write a program. Okay, two variables, I said five variables, so sorry. So five variables holding marks of five subjects, calculate percentage, and depending on the percentage, give grades like O, A, B, C, fail. No, table of 5 means 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 till 50. Table of 5. Is that cleared, everyone? Okay. Is that cleared, everyone? So now let me ask you, are we cleared with everything, guys? And I saw someone asking me questions about hoisting. Don't worry. Tomorrow I'll let you know what is hoisting. Don't worry at all. Someone is asking what is hoisting. I saw that question, but because I was answering something else, so I didn't see that. So don't worry. Holding means this. I have a variable holding some value. So A equals 34. So A is holding 34. So five variables holding subject to 5 marks. That means in all the variables there will be some value, and that value will be marks. Okay. And last question, guys. Did you guys enjoy the session? Main question. And don't worry, tomorrow I'll again explain the difference between let and var, because tomorrow we'll have function as well. Tomorrow we're going to learn function. So tomorrow I will again explain you the difference between let and var. Okay. And day after tomorrow we'll start with DOM manipulation. And in the last 2 days, we are going to create the music player. So guys, we are building that up. Okay. So be ready, everyone. Be ready. And I hope you guys understood everything. And I hope that from now on, if anyone comes to you and asks you what is condition, what is loop, you will have a detailed explanation for them. I hope. Okay. So that's it, guys. That's it, everyone. Thank you so much. And the LinkedIn ID and my Instagram ID was in the chat. Okay. So if you want to connect to me and ask me questions related to the course, related to what we are learning, related to anything, you can ask questions there. And the timing of the sessions is 6:30 to 7:30. So I'll again see you all tomorrow at 6:30. Okay. Yes, in this case, Humanshu, we're going to go a little advanced. So we're going to create a music player. That's what we're going to do on the last day. Okay. But yeah, we cannot go very advanced because we only have 7 days limit, right? Do we have to create different project for all these three questions? Yes, it will be good if you create different files. Yes, not different projects. You can have a same project, like a same folder, but different files. Assignment 1.html, assignment 2.html, assignment 3.html. Okay. And tomorrow session time, guys, is 6:30. Okay. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. And please, guys, start liking the streams if you like the things that we are doing. Also start liking the stream so that the stream or the video can reach to a lot of people and they can also learn. So start liking, and always just do subscribe so that you can also get notified on what we are doing and for which sessions we are coming up with. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. It was great having you, and I'll see all of you tomorrow. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Bye bye, everyone. I'll see all of you tomorrow. Good night, guys. Good night. Have a great night. I'll see all of you tomorrow. Same time. Yes, same time. Bye bye, everyone.